Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship, the Stellar Dawn. He looked at the big screen that showed the map of space around them. A red line glowed on the map, marking a place no one had crossed for 50,000 years. This was the edge of human space. Jake felt cold sweat on his face as he stared at that red line. Every captain in the galaxy knew about this place. Every spacer had heard the stories. Some things in space were dangerous because of weapons or monsters. This place was dangerous because of something much worse. "Sir, the alien visitors want to know why we stopped," said Lieutenant Amy Collins from her seat at the communications desk. Her voice was quiet, like she was afraid to speak too loud near the boundary. Jake's hands formed tight fists. The visitors were called Zephyrians. They looked like tall beings made of crystal. They had only learned to travel between stars 300 years ago. They were new to space travel. They did not understand why everyone was afraid of this empty area of space. Commander Lisa Bennett walked up to Jake. She carried a tablet with secret information about human space. "Captain, should I tell our guests the truth about this place?" Before Jake could answer, a shimmering figure appeared on the bridge. It was Ambassador Zethtal, one of the crystal beings. The hologram made the ambassador look like he was standing right there with them. His crystal head turned from side to side as he looked around. "Captain Morrison, why did we stop here?" the ambassador asked. His voice sounded like wind blowing through glass. "The star charts say we should fly straight through this area to reach our destination." Jake looked at Lisa. Every alien species eventually asked this question. Every time they had to explain why no one goes into human space, the answer always scared people, even the bravest warriors. "Ambassador, you are looking at human space," Jake said slowly. "No ship has gone into that area for 50,000 years. There is a very good reason why we all stay away." The crystal being's body flashed with different colors. Jake knew this meant the ambassador did not believe him. "Captain, you cannot be serious. Your instruments show only a few planets with people living on them in that area. How could such a small group keep everyone else away?" Lisa stepped forward. Her voice was serious and heavy. "Ambassador, with respect, your instruments are exactly why we keep our distance. Every species that tried to go into human space learned a hard lesson." Jake nodded to the young man at the weapons station. "Kevin, show our guest what happened to the last group that ignored our warnings." Kevin Chun pressed buttons on his control panel. The big screen changed to show old recordings from 800 years ago. A huge fleet of warships appeared on the screen. There were more than 3,000 ships, all belonging to the Vorlek Empire. The Vorlek Empire was the strongest power in the galaxy at that time, Jake explained as they watched the old footage. They controlled half of all the stars and planets. They had never met anyone they could not defeat. They thought human space would be easy to conquer. The recording showed the Vorlak fleet moving toward the red boundary line. Their ships were massive and covered with weapons that could destroy entire planets. The Vorlek commanders looked confident and proud as they crossed into human space. For several hours, nothing happened. The fleet moved deeper into the Forbiddance area. The Vorlek leaders started to feel even more confident. They thought the warnings were just stories meant to scare people. Then something strange happened. The lead warship just stopped moving. There was no explosion, no weapon hit it, no emergency signal. It just hung in space like a dead rock. Within a few minutes, every ship in the entire fleet had stopped moving. "What happened to them?" Ambassador Zethtal asked. His crystal body had turned a dark blue color that meant he was worried. "That is what every species has been trying to figure out for 50,000 years, Lisa answered. Her voice was grim. Rescue teams found the ships 3 days later. They were floating exactly where they had stopped. Every crew member was alive and healthy, but something was very wrong. What was wrong? The ambassador asked. Jake took a deep breath. They had no memory of what happened during the invasion, but it was worse than that. They had forgotten everything about their military skills, their weapons, their star maps. They remembered their names and their families, but all their knowledge about fighting and war was gone. The bridge became very quiet. Everyone could feel how serious this was. Kevin brought up more files on the screen. Every species that tried to enter human space had the same thing happen to them. The Kethmori hive mind lost 10% of their shared thoughts. The ethereal conclave could not use their mind powers for 10 years. The synthesis empire had all their computer brains reset like new machines. What about the humans? Ambassador, Zethtel asked in a whisper. No one knows, Jake admitted. They have not been seen outside their space for 49,000 years. The last time anyone saw a human was when one ship came to the boundary. The pilot gave one simple message: we want to be left alone. Please respect our boundaries, Lisa. Showed another display on the screen. It showed what human space looked like now. Long-distance scans show they are still there. We can see energy readings and artificial structures. It looks like they are still building things and changing planets. But every attempt to talk to them gets no answer. The crystal ambassador's body became very dim. This was how his species looked when they were thinking hard about something scary. So, the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy just avoid this area because of things that happened thousands of years ago? Not just avoid, Jake corrected him. We made it the most important law of the Galactic Alliance. The first rule we all agreed to says that human space must be respected as an absolute boundary. Any species that tries to go in gets kicked out of the Alliance forever. But surely someone has tried to understand their technology? Commander Bennett brought up more files. The Collector Academy has been studying this mystery for 30,000 years. Their best scientists think humans develop some way to change people's minds, but they admit it is beyond anything we understand. The most scary part, Jake continued, is that the people who lose their memories do not seem hurt by it. They are healthy and normal, they just forget certain things. Some scientists think the humans are not trying to hurt anyone. They just want to be left alone. Ambassador Zethtal's crystal form flashed with what Jake recognized as fear. And you believe this defense system still works after all this time? 800 years ago, the Vorlich fleet had the best shields in the galaxy. Last century, the Nexus Collective tried to send robot probes with special protected memory systems. Same result? Whatever the humans are using, it does not get weaker with time. The bridge crew watched as their guests thought about all this information. Finally, the ambassador spoke again. Then we will take the long way around. Jake nodded with approval. A wise choice, Ambassador. The detour will add 2 weeks to our trip, but it is a small price to pay for keeping our minds whole. As the Stellar Dawn changed course to go around human space, Jake looked one more time at the red boundary on his screen. Somewhere behind that invisible wall, humans continued to live in isolation. They were protected by technology so advanced. It made the rest of the galaxy look like children with toys. What had made them choose such extreme isolation? What happened 50,000 years ago that made them withdraw from galactic civilization? And perhaps the most frightening question of all, what were they doing in there with all that time and advanced technology? These questions had bothered the galaxy for thousands of years. Jake suspected they would continue to bother people for thousands of years more. But one thing was certain. No one was brave enough or foolish enough to cross that red line to find the answers. The memory of what happened to those who tried would haunt the galaxy forever. Dr. Maya Thompson sat deep inside the biggest library in the galaxy. Around her were thousands of data crystals that held the knowledge of 1,000 different alien species. She was the Alliance's best expert on ancient history and archaeology. For many years, she had been trying to solve the mystery of human space. Today, she thought she might finally have found something important. Computer, show me file Saltaran Historical Archive. Section. Before isolation period, she said out loud. The holographic display came to life, showing pieces of old information that had been collected from ancient databases across the galaxy. Much of it was broken or incomplete, but Maya had spent many years learning how to put the pieces together like a puzzle. Her assistant, Dr. Alex Turner, walked over with a hot cup of coffee. Did you find anything new with the Centauri fragments? Maya nodded but did not look away from the display. I think I found something very important. Look at this message log from the Altarian Trade Confederation. It is from about 51,000 years ago. The display showed part of an old communication record. The text was hard to read because it was so old. It said, "Human delegate very worried about the Devourers, asking us to stop deep space mining in Sector 7. Warning of terrible things. If the barriers are broken?" Alex leaned forward, very interested. The Devourers? I have never heard that word in any of the history records. I had not heard it either until yesterday, Maya replied. She brought up another piece of information. This one comes from the Kathmori Collective's ancient memory banks. It took me 3 years to understand their old language, but listen. To this, the humans talk about creatures from the dark space between stars. These beings eat pure consciousness itself. They say they met these devourers in the empty space beyond our galaxy. Dr. Turner's face became pale. Are you saying that humans went into isolation not because they wanted to, but to protect the galaxy from something? Maya brought up a 3-dimensional map of the galaxy. Human space was marked in red. Look at where it is, Alex. Human space is not just any random area. It is positioned directly between the center of our galaxy and the area where most of these old records say the Devourers live. The map turned around, showing how important the human territory was. It formed a wall, a barrier between the populated galaxy and the vast emptiness of space beyond the galaxy. But what could be so terrible that it would need such extreme actions? Alex asked. Maya pulled up another fragment. This one was from the Synthesis Empire's oldest databanks. According to this, the Devourers do not just destroy life. They eat the very idea of existence. Anything they touch is not just killed, but erased from reality. No memory, no records, no sign that it ever existed. That is impossible, Alex said. Nothing can violate the laws of time and space like that. Is it? Maya challenged him. Think about what happens to anyone who enters human space. They lose specific memories and specific knowledge. What if the humans developed their mind control? Technology as a defense against something that attacks the mind itself? She brought up a new display showing energy readings from the human space boundary. These readings have been taken over the past 1,000 years. Do you notice anything strange? Alex studied the data carefully. The energy patterns are changing. Like there is some kind of ongoing battle or conflict? Exactly. What if the humans are not just hiding in there? What if they are fighting? Maya's theory was interrupted by an urgent message from the bridge. Captain Morrison's voice came through the speakers. Dr. Thompson, we need you on the bridge right now. We are receiving a transmission from human space. Maya and Alex looked at each other with shock. In the 50,000 years since the isolation began, there had been no communications from human territory. They ran to the bridge, where Captain Morrison stood in front of the main display. His face looked very serious. It came in about 5 minutes ago. It was a short burst transmission with heavy encryption. Our computer managed to decode it, but the message is very disturbing. The display showed a simple text message. The barriers are failing. The Devourers stir. We may need to use Protocol 7. Prepare the galaxy for what comes next. The bridge became very quiet as everyone realized what this might mean. Lieutenant Collins spoke first. Sir, what is Protocol 7? I was hoping Dr. Thompson might... No, Morrison replied. Maya's mind raced through many years of research. I have seen references to numbered protocols in some of the oldest fragments, but never any details. The humans seem to have made emergency plans for different situations. Commander Bennett pulled up tactical displays. If this message is real, we need to tell the Galactic Alliance immediately. Every species needs to know that the situation might be changing. Wait, Maya interrupted. There is more. Computer, display the energy readings from the human space boundary over the past 72 hours. The display showed a big increase in activity. Whatever the humans were doing in there, it was getting much more intense very quickly. Alex studied the patterns. These readings are not random. There is a pattern, like a mathematical sequence. Maya made the display bigger. Her archaeologist's eye caught details others might miss. It is not just a sequence, it is a countdown. Countdown to what? Morrison demanded. Before Maya could answer, another transmission came through the communications system. This one was different, older, and sounded very desperate. To all species of the galaxy, if you are hearing this message, the main barriers have failed. The Devourers have begun their advance. We are using final protocols. Do not try to enter human space. Do not try to help us. Remember us as we were. The transmission stopped, leaving the bridge in shocked silence. Dr. Thompson's hands shook as she looked at her research files. I need to compare this with the ancient records. If the humans are preparing for some kind of final battle, how long do we have? Morrison asked. Maya pulled up her calculations based on the energy readings. If this pattern continues, whatever they are counting down to will reach zero in about 72 hours. The captain immediately opened a channel to Alliance Command. Priority 1 transmission to all member species. The human space situation has changed. We may be facing a threat that has been contained for 50,000 years. As the bridge crew worked quickly to prepare for the unknown, Maya went back to her archives with new purpose. If the humans had been fighting something for 50,000 years, the galaxy needed to understand what they might be facing. Deep in her research, she found one final fragment that made her blood run cold. It was from the humans themselves. Recorded just before they went into isolation, we go now into the dark between stars, to hold the line against that which would eat all thought, all memory, all existence. If we fail, there will be no second chance. The galaxy will forget it ever existed. Maya stared at the ancient human words. For 50,000 years, humanity had been standing guard against something that wanted to destroy not just life, but the very concept of existence itself. They had sacrificed their place in galactic civilization to become eternal guardians against an enemy that existed beyond normal understanding. The countdown continued, and Maya realized that humanity's greatest battle was about to reach its end. Win or lose, the galaxy was about to discover what had been hidden behind that red boundary for so long. She thought about all the species that had mocked human isolation, all the attempts to breach their space, all the theories about human arrogance and xenophobia. None of them had understood the truth. Humans were not hiding from the galaxy, they were protecting it. The energy readings from human space continued to climb. Whatever was coming, it would arrive in less than 3 days. Maya only hoped the galaxy would be ready for the truth about what humanity had been fighting all along. Admiral Rachel Martinez stood in the command center of the Alliance's most advanced monitoring station. She watched displays that had not changed for thousands of years suddenly come alive with frightening activity. The boundary of human space. That invisible wall that had protected the galaxy for 50,000 years was beginning to flicker like a dying light. "Give me a status report," she commanded. Her voice stayed calm even though everyone in the room was getting more nervous. By the minute, Commander Danny Foster pulled up the latest sensor readings. "Ma'am, we are detecting massive energy changes along the entire border. Whatever the humans have been using to keep their barrier working, it is failing." Dr. Maya Thompson had been brought to the station to help understand what was happening. She studied the patterns with growing fear. "Admiral, based on my research, I believe the humans have been fighting something called the Devourers for 50,000 years. These energy readings suggest that battle is reaching a critical point. And you believe these Devourers are about to break through?" "I believe they already have," Maya replied with a grim voice. "Look at Sector 7G. The display changed to show a small area where the familiar red glow of the human boundary had gone completely dark. Where there had once been an unbreakable wall, now there was simply nothing. "Send a probe to that sector immediately," Martinez ordered. "Ma'am, regulations say we cannot approach human space," Foster reminded her. "The regulations assume human. Space is still intact," Martinez shot back. "If the barrier is failing, we need to know what we are facing." The probe launched. Its journey to the breach took 12 very tense minutes. As it got closer to the dark sector, the readings it sent back made no sense at all. "Admiral," the sensor operator called out. Her voice was shaking. "The probe is detecting emptiness. Not just empty space, but an absence of everything. No quantum waves, no background radiation, no subspace signals. It is like reality itself has been erased." Maya's worst fears were coming true. The Devourers do not just destroy matter and energy, they consume the very fabric of existence itself. Before anyone could respond, alarms began making loud noises. Throughout the station, the probe signal had disappeared. It was not destroyed, but simply gone, as if it had never existed at all. "More breaches opening," Foster reported. Sectors 12A, 5C, and 18J are all showing the same thing. Admiral Martinez opened a priority channel to all Alliance forces. "This is Admiral Martinez to all units. We have a code black situation. The human space barrier is failing and hostile entities are breaking through. All ships must maintain maximum distance and prepare for evacuation protocols." On the main display, the dark patches in human space began to grow larger. Whatever the humans had been holding back for 50,000 years was finally breaking free. "Wait," Maya said suddenly, studying her instruments. "I am detecting something else. There is a ship approaching from within human space." The display changed to show a vessel unlike anything in the current galactic database. It was sleek and angular, and seemed to bend light around itself in impossible ways. As it approached the monitoring station, it sent a simple message: "Request immediate. Conference with Alliance leadership. Time is critical." Admiral Martinez hesitated. First contact with humans after 50,000 years of isolation was not something she was prepared for. The ship took position just outside the monitoring station's defensive shields. A single figure appeared on the bridge using transport technology that should not have been possible through the station's defenses. The human appeared to be a woman in her 30s, though something about her seemed impossibly old. She wore a simple gray uniform with no visible rank markings, and her eyes held the weight of thousands of years. "I am Commander Lavra Hayes," she said simply. "I represent the Human Defense Corps. We need to talk." Martinez struggled to stay composed. "Commander Hayes, the Alliance has respected human isolation for 50,000 years. We need to understand what is happening." Lavra studied the tactical displays showing the expanding breaches. "What is happening is that we are losing. The Devourers have finally found a way to break through our barriers. In about 36 hours, they will have consumed enough of our reality anchors to begin their advance into the galaxy." "Reality anchors?" Foster asked. "Devices that maintain the structural integrity of space-time itself," Lavra explained. "For 50,000 years, we have been using them to contain the Devourers in a pocket dimension, but they are adaptive. They have learned to feed on the anchors themselves." Maya stepped forward. Her scientific curiosity was stronger than her fear. "Commander Hayes, my research suggests your people encountered these entities in intergalactic space. How did they get here?" Laura's expression became darker. "They did not get here. They have always been here. The Devourers exist in the quantum foam that underlies all reality. Most of the time they are sleeping, but certain actions can wake them up. Deep space mining, particularly in areas where the barriers between dimensions are thin, can give them anchor points to begin appearing in our reality. So the ancient mining operations that caused the crisis ... exactly. By the time we understood what was happening, entire star systems had been consumed. Not destroyed, consumed. Erased from existence. So completely that even the memory of them was gone." Admiral Martinez felt a chill run down her spine. "How do you fight something like that?" "You do not fight them," Lavra replied. "You contain them. We have spent 50,000 years building a cage around them, using our own consciousness as the bars. Every human mind is linked to the containment network. When we die, our consciousness becomes part of the barrier." "But you said the barriers are failing," Lavra nodded grimly. "There are less than 1 billion humans left. We have been feeding ourselves into the containment system for thousands of years, and we are running out of minds. The devourers have grown stronger while we have grown weaker. Then what do you propose? Martinez asked. We need to evacuate the galaxy, Lavra said simply. In 36 hours, the devourers will break free completely. They will consume everything within 1,000 light years before we can re-establish containment. The only way to save galactic civilization is to run? The command center fell silent as everyone realized what this meant. Moving trillions of beings from hundreds of worlds was impossible. There has to be another way, Maya insisted. Laura's eyes met hers. There is. But it requires a sacrifice that I am not sure the galaxy is prepared to make. What kind of sacrifice? We need to expand the containment network. Instead of using only human minds, we need volunteers from every species. Millions of them. They would need to link their consciousness to ours, knowing that they would never be able to return to their normal lives. Foster spoke up. You are asking entire populations to sacrifice themselves. I am asking them to save the galaxy, Lavar corrected. The alternative is total extinction, not just of life, but of the very concept of existence itself. Admiral. Martinez looked at the expanding dark zones on her display. Each one represented a hole in reality itself, a wound in the fabric of existence that was growing larger every hour. How long do we have to make this decision? The evacuation fleets would need to begin moving within 12 hours, Lavar replied. The volunteer program would need to begin immediately. Once the devourers break free completely, there will not be time for either option. As alarms continued to sound throughout the station, Martinez realized that the galaxy was facing its greatest crisis in 50,000 years. The humans had given everything to protect them, and now they were asking for help in return. But the help they needed was not weapons or ships or technology. They needed people willing to give up their individual lives to become part of a living barrier against the end of existence itself. The question was whether the galaxy was ready to pay such a price for survival, and with only 36 hours remaining, there was very little time to find out. The emergency meeting of the Galactic Alliance Council happened in the huge chambers of Central Station. Representatives from over 300 different species gathered in person and through holograms. The atmosphere was thick with fear and uncertainty as they all tried to understand the terrible news they had just received. President William Park of the Alliance Council called the meeting to order. His voice carried the weight of the crisis they all faced. Representatives, we are dealing with something that has never happened before. Commander Hayes of the Human Defense Corps has told us about the nature of this threat. The floor is now open for discussion. The Crystalline Collective's representative, Ambassador Geltar, was the first to speak. With respect to our human colleagues, we are being asked to believe the word of a species that has isolated itself for 50,000 years. How do we know this threat is real? Dr. Maya Thompson, now serving as the Alliance's expert on the crisis, turned on the central display. Ambassador, our monitoring stations have detected 17 separate reality breaches in the past 6 hours. Probe after probe has simply vanished, not destroyed but erased from existence. The threat is very real. Commander Lavra Hayes stood at the center of the chamber. Despite her small size, everyone paid attention when she spoke. Representatives, I understand your doubt. My people chose isolation not because we were arrogant, but because we had no choice. We have spent 50,000 years holding back an enemy that exists beyond your understanding of reality. The mechanical delegate from the Synthesis Empire, called Unit Alpha 7, processed this information with cold logic. Commander Hayes, you asked that millions of our citizens volunteer to link their consciousness to your network. What proof can you give that this will work? None, Lavar replied honestly. The devourers have been adapting to our containment methods for thousands of years. Adding minds from different species might make the network stronger, or it might give them new weaknesses to exploit. We simply do not know. A wave of worried murmurs swept through the chamber. The Altarian Trade Confederation's representative, Minister Elena Rodriguez, stood to speak to the assembly. If there are no guarantees, then perhaps evacuation is the safer choice. The human commander said that escape was possible. Lavra shook her head. Minister Rodriguez, I said evacuation might be possible, not that it would be successful. The Devourers can track consciousness across vast distances. Even if we could evacuate the entire galaxy, they would eventually find and consume every living mind. We would only be delaying the inevitable. The ethereal conclave's representative, a being of pure energy named Veltar, spoke with a voice like wind chimes. Commander Hayes, your species has carried this burden alone for 50,000 years. Perhaps it is time to share the responsibility. With respect, Veltar, we did not choose this burden. We discovered it by accident and have been paying the price ever since. The question now is whether the galaxy will help us finish what we started. Admiral Martinez, representing the Alliance Military Command, spoke to the chamber. If I may, representatives, our strategic analysis suggests that even a partial evacuation would take months to organize. According to Commander Hayes, we have less than 24 hours before the containment fails completely. The chamber erupted in heated discussions. As representatives talked with their governments, the size of the decision was overwhelming. They had to choose between certain sacrifice and probable extinction. Dr. Thompson called for attention. Representatives, I have been studying the ancient records for decades. Every piece of evidence suggests that the humans have been protecting us all along. The question is not whether we can trust them, but whether we can trust ourselves to do what is necessary. The Kathmori Collective's new speaker, a being known as Prime Node 7, connected to the collective consciousness before responding. Dr. Thompson, our analysis of the historical data confirms what you say. The collective votes to support the volunteer program. One by one, other species began to announce their decisions. The Synthesis Empire calculated that the logical choice was to preserve some minds rather than lose all minds. The ethereal conclave felt a spiritual duty to help maintain the barriers between dimensions. However, not all responses were positive. The Vorlik Empire's representative, General Fakemar, slammed his armored fist on the table. The Vorlok Empire will not sacrifice its citizens for human paranoia. We have conquered 100 worlds and fear no enemy. Then you have forgotten what happened to your invasion fleet 800 years ago, Lavra replied quietly. They feared no enemy either. The reminder of the Vorlok fleet's humiliation sent ripples of unease through the chamber. Every species had stories of failed attempts to breach human space, and the result was always the same. Memory modification and technological regression. President Park called for order. Representatives, we need a decision. Time is running out. The vote was closer than anyone had expected. Of the 312 member species, 203 voted to support the volunteer program, while 109 voted for evacuation. The narrow margin showed the galaxy's uncertainty and fear. The motion passes, Park announced. The Alliance will work with the Human Defense Corps to implement the volunteer program. May whatever gods you believe in have mercy on us all. Lava. Hayes stepped forward. Thank you, representatives. We will need to begin the neural linking process immediately. The volunteers will need to understand that once they join the network, they cannot return to their normal lives. They will become part of the barrier itself. Dr. Thompson approached Lavra after the session. Commander, is there really no other way? Laura's ancient eyes held deep sadness. Dr. Thompson, for 50,000 years, my people have asked ourselves the same question. We have explored every possibility, every alternative. The Devourers exist in the quantum foundation of reality itself. The only way to contain them is to create a conscious barrier, minds that can actively resist their influence. And if this fails, then we will have bought the galaxy a few more centuries before the final consumption. Sometimes that is the best you can hope for. As the representatives left to return to their homeworlds to begin finding volunteers, Maya wondered if they were making the right choice. The alternative was evacuation, with all its uncertainties and likely failure. But as she watched the tactical displays showing more reality breaches opening every hour, she realized that the Galaxy was about to discover whether conscious will could triumph over absolute entropy. The volunteers would soon learn what it meant to stand guard at the edge of existence itself. Meanwhile, across the galaxy the recruitment began. On 1,000 worlds, beings of every species made the hardest decision of their lives. Some volunteered, out of duty, others out of fear, and still others out of a simple desire to protect their families and friends. Captain Ben Shaw of the Altarian Defense Force was among the first to volunteer. When asked why, he simply said, "Someone has to do it. If the humans could sacrifice 50,000 years for us, I can sacrifice my life for my children." Similar scenes played out across the galaxy. The Kethmori sent their best warriors. The ethereal conclave provided their most skilled psionics. Even some members of the proud Vorlok Empire, despite their government's opposition, came in secret to join the fight. The greatest battle in galactic history was about to begin, and it would be fought not with weapons or armies, but with the power of living minds united against the darkness between the stars. Time was running out, and the fate of all existence hung in the balance. The volunteers gathered at neural linking facilities across the galaxy, knowing they were about to become part of something greater than themselves, something that would stand as the final barrier between life and the void that hungered to consume it all. The neural linking facility aboard the massive space station New Horizon hummed with activity as volunteers from across the galaxy prepared to sacrifice their individual consciousness for the survival of all existence. Dr. Maya Thompson watched over the process, her scientific mind struggling to understand the technology that would merge thousands of alien minds into a single defensive network. Commander Lavra Hayes stood at the center of the facility. Her own consciousness was already serving as the main connection point for the human defense network. Around her, beings from dozens of species lay in special chambers, their minds being carefully connected to the expanding barrier. "Status report," Lavra called out. Her voice carried across both the physical space and the quantum network that connected all linked minds. Dr. Alex Turner, now serving as the facility's chief coordinator, looked at his displays. "We have successfully connected representatives from 47 species. The network is holding stable, but the energy requirements are enormous." Through the vast windows of the station, they could see the dark wounds in space where the Devourers had already broken through. Each breach was expanding, consuming not just matter and energy, but the very concept of existence itself. "Lavara," Maya said, using the human commander's first name as they had agreed. "The volunteers are asking about what they will experience once the link is complete." Laura's expression was serious. "They will become part of something larger than themselves. Their individual thoughts will merge with the collective consciousness of the network. They will experience existence from the perspective of the barrier itself, feeling every attempt the Devourers make to break through." A new volunteer, Captain Ben Shaw of the Altarian Defense Force, raised his hand. "Commander Hayes, will we still be ourselves?" "You will be yourself, but you will also be everyone else in the network. Your memories, your personality, your experiences will become part of the whole. In return, you will gain the memories and experiences of every other linked mind. And we can never leave?" Laura's voice was gentle but firm. "Captain Shaw, leaving the network would create a weakness the Devourers could exploit. Everyone who joins must understand that this is permanent." Despite the finality of the commitment, volunteers continued to arrive from across the galaxy. The Kethmori Collective sent their best warriors. The ethereal conclave provided their most skilled mind readers. Even the proud Vorlok Empire, despite their government's opposition, had warriors who came in secret to join the fight. Admiral Martinez monitored the situation from the station's command center. "Dr. Thompson, what is the status of the containment field?" Maya checked her instruments. "The network is growing stronger with each new volunteer, but so are the Devourers. They are adapting to our defensive patterns faster than we anticipated." On the main display, the dark zones continued to expand. What had started as small breaches were now gaping wounds in reality itself. The edges of each breach moved with something that was not quite darkness, a presence that seemed to actively consume light, matter, and thought. New volunteers arriving from the Synthesis Empire, Alex reported. They are requesting immediate connection. Lavra nodded. Begin the process. We need every mind we can get. The mechanical beings from the Synthesis Empire presented a unique challenge. Their artificial consciousnesses worked on quantum principles that were foreign to organic minds, but as they connected to the network, they provided a stability that the organic volunteers lacked. Interesting, Lavra murmured, feeling the network's structure shift and strengthen. The artificial minds are serving as anchor points for the organic consciousness. They are making the entire network more stable. But even as the network grew stronger, the Devourers pressed their attack. Through the shared consciousness of the barrier, every linked mind could feel the alien hunger, the absolute emptiness that sought to consume all existence. They are trying something different, reported Dr. Sarah Kim, a volunteer from the Terran Defense Corps, who had joined the network but maintained her ability to communicate with the outside world. They are not just pushing against the barrier. Anymore, they are trying to corrupt it from within. Maya felt a chill of fear. What do you mean? They are attempting to insert their essence into the network itself. If they succeed, they could turn our own minds against us. Laura's consciousness flared with determination. All volunteers, prepare for mental combat. The Devourers are attempting infiltration. Focus on your individual identities while maintaining the collective bond. The battle that followed was unlike anything in galactic history. It was fought not with weapons or armies, but with pure will and consciousness. Each mind in the network had to simultaneously maintain its individual identity while contributing to the collective defense. The Devourers' assault was relentless. They attacked not just the barrier, but the very concept of existence itself. They whispered to the volunteers, promising peace in non-existence, suggesting that reality itself was a burden to be discarded, but the network held. The combined will of thousands of minds from hundreds of species proved stronger than the hunger of the void. Human determination merged with Kethmori unity. Ethereal wisdom combined with synthesis logic and Vorlek warrior spirit strengthened. Them all, the breaches are stabilizing, Alex reported with amazement. The network is actually pushing them back. Through the shared consciousness, Lavra could feel the Devourers' confusion. They had never encountered a defense like this before. Minds that willingly sacrificed individuality for the greater good while still maintaining their essential nature. They are retreating, Sarah reported from within the network. The Devourers are withdrawing back into the quantum foam. But Lavra knew the victory was temporary. They will adapt. They always do. This network will need to be maintained permanently. Maya approached the communication console. Lavra, what happens now? The volunteers can never leave the network, but they have saved the galaxy. Laura's voice carried across both the physical and quantum realms. Now we guard. We watch. We ensure that the barriers remain strong for as long as consciousness exists in this universe. Admiral Martinez looked out at the stars, where the dark wounds in space were slowly healing. Will it be enough? It has to be, Lavra replied. The network is stronger than anything we have ever created. With representatives from every major species, we have a diversity of thought and experience that the Devourers cannot predict or counter. As the immediate crisis passed, the volunteers began to adapt to their new existence. They found that while they had sacrificed their individual lives, they had gained something far greater, a connection to every mind in the network, a shared understanding that transcended species boundaries. Dr. Thompson compiled her final report on the crisis. The Human Defense Corps has successfully connected volunteers from 112 species into the containment network. The barriers are holding, and the Devourers have been forced back into dormancy. But she knew, as did everyone involved, that this was not an ending but a beginning. The volunteers had become eternal guardians, watching over the galaxy from the edge of existence itself. In the depths of the quantum foam, the Devourers waited. They had been defeated but not destroyed. and they would continue to test the barriers for weaknesses. But now they faced not just human determination but the combined will of an entire galaxy united in defense of existence itself. Years passed, and the network continued to grow. New volunteers joined regularly, adding their consciousness to the eternal vigil. The barriers held firm against the Devourer's periodic attempts to break through. Each attack met with the combined resistance of thousands of minds. Working in perfect unity, the galaxy had learned that some threats required sacrifices beyond conventional warfare. The volunteers who had joined the network became legends, their names recorded in the histories of every species as the guardians who chose to stand at the edge of existence itself. Commander LeVar Hayes, now the eternal coordinator of the network, maintained her vigil from within the quantum barriers. Her consciousness had become something beyond individual identity, a living embodiment of the determination to protect all existence from the hunger of the void. The memory of those 50,000 years of human isolation would indeed haunt the galaxy, but it would also serve as a reminder of what could be accomplished when diverse species united for a common cause. In the end, the greatest victory belonged not to any single species, but to consciousness itself, proving that the power of thought and will could triumph over even the most absolute form of destruction.